Yellowstone National Park, it's one of the most beautiful places on Earth, right? Geysers like Old Faithful shooting water into the sky, colorful hot springs that look like they're from another planet, and herds of majestic bison roaming free. It's the perfect postcard for America's natural beauty. But what if I told you that this entire beautiful park is a lie? Well, not exactly a lie, but a giant, beautiful cover-up. Because everything you're seeing, the geysers, the hot springs, the bubbling mud pots, are not just tourist attractions. They are the vents of a geological pressure cooker. They are the warning signs of a monster sleeping just a few miles beneath your feet. We're talking about the Yellowstone Supervolcano. Now, when you hear supervolcano, what's the first thing you picture? Probably something you saw in a Hollywood disaster movie. A giant fiery mountain exploding lava flowing everywhere, turning the world into a scene from the Lord of the Rings. It's dramatic, it's fiery, and it's what everyone thinks the apocalypse will look like. That's completely wrong, and believing that Hollywood myth is dangerously misleading. The real eruption of Yellowstone won't be a localized river of fire. It will be a global catastrophe, and the real killer isn't the lava. It's something far quieter, colder, and much, much deadlier. The title of this video is not an exaggeration. An eruption at Yellowstone won't just be a huge volcanic event. It has the very real potential to trigger a global nuclear winter. Yes, you heard that right. A nuclear winter without a single nuclear bomb. This sounds insane, I know. It sounds like a conspiracy theory. Right now in the comments, tell me your first reaction. Do you think this is possible, or is it just fear-mongering? Be honest, let's see how many skeptics we have, because in this video we're going to connect the dots. We're going to show you the simple, terrifying, step-by-step process that links an explosion in Wyoming, USA to crop failures in Asia, to freezing temperatures in Europe, and to the potential collapse of modern civilization as we know it. We will deconstruct. 1. We'll show you the sheer mind-boggling size of the magma chamber hiding under the park. 2. The real weapon. We'll reveal why volcanic ash, not lava, is the true global killer and how it can literally block out the sun. 3. The domino effect. Will walk you through the chain reaction of a global cool down from failing crops to worldwide famine. This isn't a disaster movie, this is a scientific reality check, so if you're ready to have your mind blown and understand the true world-ending power of the ground beneath our feet, you're in the right place. And if you believe that understanding these ultimate threats is important, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what we deconstruct next. Let's get started. Okay, so we've made a pretty bold claim: an explosion in Wyoming could cause a global winter. To understand how that's even possible, we need to forget the beautiful surface of Yellowstone and take a journey deep underground. We need to meet the beast. First, let's get one thing straight. A supervolcano is not just a really big volcano, it's a completely different kind of animal. A normal volcano like Mount St. Helens is a cone-shaped mountain built up over time by layers of lava. It's a visible, obvious threat. A supervolcano is the opposite. It is a master of disguise. There is no giant mountain. In fact, after a super eruption, the ground collapses, leaving a massive sunken crater called a caldera. The entire Yellowstone Park you see today is the caldera. You are not visiting a park with a volcano. You are walking around inside a volcano. Now for the truly mind-blowing part. A few miles beneath the geysers and tourists lies the beast's heart, the magma chamber. This isn't a small pool of lava, this is a vast underground lake of molten rock. How vast? The upper magma chamber alone is estimated to be about 55 miles long and 25 miles wide. Let's put that into perspective. That is large enough to fill the Grand Canyon 11 times over. It's an underground reservoir of molten rock roughly the size of New York City, but much, much deeper. And that's just the upper chamber. There's a second, even larger one below it. This is not a geological feature. It is a planetary-scale power source bubbling and churning, waiting. This is a crazy thought, but imagine if that magma chamber was empty. It would be the largest cave system in the world. If you could explore it, what do you think you would find down there? Let us know your sci-fi theories in the comments. So what makes it a super volcano? It's all about the type of magma. The magma here is extremely thick and sticky like honey. It's also packed with an incredible amount of trapped gas. For thousands of years, this thick, gassy magma slowly rises, but it can't easily break through the Earth's crust. So the pressure just builds and builds and builds. A normal volcano is like opening a shaken soda can. It's messy. A supervolcano is like detonating a bomb inside a sealed pressure cooker. It doesn't erupt, it detonates. When that detonation happens, the immediate area, hundreds of miles in every direction, is instantly vaporized by a pyroclastic flow. That's the local problem. But that's not the part that affects you watching this from thousands of miles away. The global problem, the real weapon, is what gets shot into the sky. And in the next chapter, we're going to deconstruct that weapon piece by piece. But before we do, let's talk numbers. The last major eruption at Yellowstone about 640,000 years ago was 1,000 times more powerful than the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. It shot so much material into the atmosphere that ash from Wyoming has been found as far away as California and Louisiana. And here is the crucial question, the reason you need to stay with us until the very end. We're going to show you exactly how that ash travels, how it blocks the sun, and how it triggers the global winter. But more importantly, we're going to answer the one question that's probably in your mind right now. Is it going to erupt in our lifetime? We have the latest scientific data on that, and the answer might surprise you. Stick around. Okay, so the pressure cooker has exploded. The initial blast would be one of the loudest sounds in human history heard across the entire continent. For anyone within a few hundred miles, the game is instantly over. A superheated cloud of ash rock and gas called a pyroclastic flow moving at supersonic speeds would incinerate everything in its path. It's a truly terrifying thought, but that's just the local news. That's not the part that plunges the entire planet into a crisis. The real global killer is not the blast, and it's not the lava. It's something that seems almost harmless ash. But this isn't the soft, fluffy ash you get from a campfire. This is volcanic ash. And you need to think of it not as dust, but as microscopic, jagged shards of rock and glass. It's incredibly abrasive, and when inhaled, it can be lethal. During a super eruption, the force of the blast is so immense that it shoots a colossal column of this ash not just into the sky, but all the way up into the stratosphere. This is the most important detail of the entire event. You see, the air around us, the part where weather happens, is called the troposphere. Any dust or ash that gets kicked up into this layer gets washed out by rain in a matter of days or weeks. But the stratosphere is different. It's high above the clouds, high above the weather. There is no rain up there to wash anything away. When the Yellowstone Supervolcano injects thousands of cubic kilometers of fine ash and sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere, that material doesn't come down. It stays there. For years, this is the ash veil, a thin, almost imperceptible layer of dust miles above our heads, slowly encircling the globe. It's a bit like when there's a major wildfire and the sky hundreds of miles away turns hazy and orange for days. Now imagine that effect, but 1,000 times worse and covering the entire planet. Have you ever experienced a hazy sky from a distant wildfire? It's a pretty strange feeling, isn't it? Share where you were and what it looked like. So what's the big deal? A little dust in the sky. Well, that little dust is about to trigger the greatest crisis in human history. The tiny reflective particles of ash and sulfur act like a planetary-scale sunshield. They begin to block out a significant portion of the sunlight reaching the Earth's surface, and this is where the dominoes begin to fall. Domino 1, the temperature drops. With less sunlight, the global average temperature would plummet. We're talking a drop of 5 to 10 degrees Celsius, that's about 9 to 18 degrees Fahrenheit. It doesn't sound like much, but it's enough to trigger a volcanic winter, a new man-made ice age. This sudden global freeze is the trigger, but the cold itself isn't what causes society to collapse. The real killer is the effect it has on the one thing we all need to survive, and we'll get to that in the next chapter. The ash veil is now in place, the sun is blocked, the planet is getting colder. The stage is set for a global catastrophe, not with a bang, but with a slow, creeping, and silent freeze. The weapon has been deployed, now it's time to see the consequences. Okay, so the ash veil is in place, the sun is being blocked, and the planet's getting colder. You might be thinking, so what, I'll just wear an extra jacket. Unfortunately, the problem is far, far bigger than that. The real victim of this global cool down isn't us directly, it's our food supply. Welcome to the nuclear winter effect. Domino 2. The global crop failure. Think about the plants we rely on for food: corn, wheat, rice. They are all highly tuned biological machines that depend on a predictable cycle of sunlight and warmth. A sudden global temperature drop of 5 to 10 degrees is not a minor inconvenience for them. It is a death sentence. The growing seasons would be drastically shortened or, in some parts of the world, eliminated entirely. Monsoons in Asia could fail. The grain belt of North America, the breadbasket of the world, could experience summer frosts. The result would be near total simultaneous crop failure across the entire planet. It's a simple, brutal equation. No sun means no plants. No plants means no food. It's easy to forget where our food comes from when we just buy it at the grocery store. What's one food item you absolutely couldn't live without? Let us know in the comments. Now imagine the shelves for that item are completely empty, forever. This leads us to the final and most terrifying domino. Domino 3, the collapse of civilization. When the food runs out, civilization as we know it begins to break down, and it happens with terrifying speed. First, the supermarket shelves would be empty within 3 days. Panic buying would strip everything bare. After that, there are no more shipments coming. The farms are not producing. Second, governments would immediately halt all food exports. Every nation would hoard what little they have for their own citizens. The global trade network that our modern world relies on would simply cease to exist overnight. Third, mass starvation would begin. This is the grim reality. The world's food reserves can only last for a few months at best. This isn't a post-apocalyptic movie script. This is a well-studied scenario by scientists and governments. A multi-year volcanic winter is considered one of the single greatest existential threats to humanity. The eruption itself in Wyoming would be a regional catastrophe. The ash that falls across the country would be a national disaster. But the ash that stays in the sky, that is a global civilization-ending event. So we have this terrifying ticking time bomb sitting under one of America's most beautiful parks. It has the power to end the world as we know it. This leads to the billion-dollar question. The one you've been waiting for. Is it going to erupt anytime soon? Are there signs? Are the scientists worried? What are the real odds of this happening in our lifetime? In our final chapter, we're going to look at the latest data and give you the straight scientific answer. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we've talked about the global winter, the ash veil, the worldwide famine. That's the slow motion apocalypse. It wouldn't start with a gentle rumble. It would begin with a series of massive earthquakes stronger than anything recorded in modern history, tearing the ground apart across Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. Then the ground itself, over an area the size of a major city, would begin to bulge upwards like a monstrous blister on the skin of the planet. And then it detonates. The sound would be indescribable, a deafening continuous roar that would be heard across the entire continent. The initial blast would eject a colossal column of ash rock and gas straight up into the stratosphere, punching a hole through our atmosphere at supersonic speeds. This column could reach heights of 25 to 30 miles high enough to see the curvature of the Earth, but that's not the most dangerous part. Hour 1 to 3, the pyroclastic flow. As the eruption column collapses under its own immense weight, it creates the deadliest weapon of any volcano, a pyroclastic flow. This is not lava. This is a superheated ground-hugging avalanche of ash rock fragments and toxic gases moving at speeds of over 400 miles per hour. That's faster than a commercial jetliner, and its temperature over 1,000 degrees Celsius or 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot enough to melt lead. For anyone within a 60 to 100 mile radius of the eruption, an area known as the kill zone survival is not a possibility. There is no outrunning it. There is no hiding from it. It incinerates everything in its path instantly. The cities of Jackson, Wyoming and Bozeman, Montana would cease to exist in a matter of minutes. It's hard to imagine that scale of destruction. Think about the city or town you live in. Remember, volcanic ash is microscopic, jagged shards of rock and glass. First comes the darkness. A thick black cloud of ash would spread out, plunging a huge portion of the United States into total midday darkness. Then, the ash begins to fall. Heavily. Within a few hundred miles of the eruption, the ash could pile up several feet deep. Water becomes toxic. The ash contaminates all open water sources, rivers, lakes, reservoirs, turning them into a toxic slurry. The air becomes unbreathable. Inhaling the sharp glass-like particles would be lethal. Denver, Salt Lake City, and Boise would be buried. the entire infrastructure of the American West would be paralyzed. Hour 1224. The global spread. By the end of the first day, the initial cataclysmic phase is over, but the global catastrophe is just beginning. Which leads us to the final and most important question of all. Is this just a scary what-if scenario, or is it a real threat we need to worry about right now? In our final chapter, we'll look at the data and give you the answer. Okay, so we've just painted a pretty terrifying picture of a global apocalypse, right? A giant explosion, a continent covered in ash, and a worldwide winter. It's the stuff of nightmares. You've probably seen those scary videos on the internet with dramatic music and headlines like, Yellowstone is about to erupt. Yellowstone has thousands of tiny earthquakes every year. That sounds scary, but it's actually totally normal. It's just the volcano breathing and stretching. The doctors at the YVO aren't worried about the number of quakes. They're looking for a specific pattern quakes getting stronger and closer to the surface. And right now, everything is looking normal and healthy. No fever here. Vital sign 2. Ground swelling. The ground at Yellowstone actually breathes. It rises and falls by a few inches every year as the magma below shifts around. Vital sign 3. Weird gases. Before a big eruption, a volcano often starts burping. A lot of extra gas like sulfur dioxide. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the yearly chance of a Yellowstone super eruption is about 1 in 730,000. What's the craziest or funniest Yellowstone is about to erupt rumor you've ever heard? Share it in the comments below. Let's have some fun busting these myths. So no, you don't need to start building a bunker. The lesson here isn't to live in fear. The real lesson is that science is awesome. Our ability to monitor these incredible forces of nature is what keeps us safe. And at YZone 360, we believe that the best way to deal with scary things is to understand them. Knowledge is the ultimate antidote to fear.